Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Bridging the Gap. My name is Colin McEvers.
I'm David James.
I'm Jermichael Mitchell.
I'm Michael Langford.
Today we have a Talk of the City segment.
Yeah.
This is Choppin' It Up. We have some guests that are very knowledgeable about city matters. And I'm looking forward to it.
And while we're actually talking about our guests, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself here? Michael, you're the new guy on the scene here.
Sure. I'm an artist. Personally, that's how I'm relating to life. In that role, I'm a community arts advocate. I host community events in my home, out in the community at different organizations like the Brick Room or the public library. Mm-hmm. I'm just generally a concerned citizen getting involved in the local scene.
You're going to have to teach me how to play the guitar a little bit.
I can do that, man.
I need to learn something new. Jermichael?
Well, of course, I'm Jermichael Mitchell. I consider myself a youth and community activist.
Okay. You're very impactful in the community, too.
Definitely. So the first question we have for both of you guys, for Jermichael and Michael, what do you guys see as the top concerns of the city of Salisbury at this current moment?
Yeah, good question.
I would say transparency. Michael probably echoed the same. We talk often a lot. But I would say transparency. Everybody ran that they were going to be transparent when they did their campaigns. It was a key thing, a very big topic. And now I would say when you see the hands unfolding, you find out a lot more was going on and a lot is going on that we haven't heard or that we didn't know. So when you're paying attention, close attention, I don't think we're as transparent as we talked about in the very beginning when their campaigns were ran and when these people were elected in their positions.
Empty promises.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with Jermichael. I'd say, for example, of how they could be more transparent. When the agenda meeting packets are going out or last minute, sometimes items are added last minute to that agenda so people don't have proper time to review them. So communication on the front end. Then the meeting minutes are often late and behind, and they're working to remedy that, but at the same time, isn't that the role of a city clerk? Isn't that the role of that job? So what else are they doing other than doing exactly what that clerical position is for? And then during the meeting, it's amazing. They don't really provide they don't have the agenda meeting packet there, right? They might have a list of what's going to come up.
Good point.
But that when they're going over, at the most recent city council meeting when I was there, they were talking about amending a line item, and it's the difference of numbers. And so they don't have that in front of you, they're reading it. So unless you're a certain kind of savvy numbers person, most human beings are not going to be able to do 1.432 to amended to 1.4. We can't follow that, And
exactly.
So while they're speaking something into the public realm, it's disingenuous to pretend like people are going to be able to follow or be able to be involved or in real time respond to that. So I think there's a lack of transparency, and we could really alter that in how council meetings are done.
I would also add, and I would like to add because he brought that up, the fact that sometimes the lingo goes over people's heads. And that is why what we talked about earlier, town halls are vital and important.
Very important.
Because in town halls, you can break down what's really being talked about, right? So like Michael said, you may not get it then because we don't have the time frame, right? But in those town halls, I have all the time in the world to really explain what's really going on to people in my district. But we don't have town halls like that for my people.
Yeah, I actually didn't quite understand the last council meeting. They had I think the line item was 2935, and you had two totally different things grouped into the same packet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, what are we voting on? Actually, I think one of the council ladies actually said, well, what are we voting on? The first part or the second part?
Exactly.
I didn't understand the rhyme or reason on why they did it like that.
Yeah, and speaking of town halls, maybe if we had some kind of media specialist to host town halls for the people, then
81,000 would be,
we'd be in a better position. But actually, I wanted to touch on something you had mentioned about amendments, certain things not being included on the agenda. You had mentioned this at the last city council meeting that we were both at. There was a proposal to add another role to the city government, a media specialist, and what was it that you said that it wasn't necessarily stipulated or even stated on the city agenda?
Yeah, there was nothing for us to review. There was no specific. They didn't even label the position. They didn't give a description of the position. There was no transparency there. So it was just something added last minute to the packet. But we, as the public, just coming into a meeting, we depend on that sheet of paper that they have to be the facts, just the facts, and for people to get involved in their political process, and we can't do that how they're conducting things in that chamber.
Well, I noticed also when they were talking about this, it didn't seem like the council president wanted to be confrontational about it. Maybe it wasn't really his bill. wasn't. In other words, it seemed like there was two other people that were getting in detail about it, and as soon as that there was some kind of, I mean, people didn't like what they were hearing. He was like, well, we don't have to do this. We don't have to do this. So my question is, who really wanted this media specialist, and what would it actually be used for? I mean, I like what April Jackson said about the fact that she does her own work. I've actually been able to go on Facebook and see she does a lot of work with the homeless. I know where to go. I know what's going on. So, and I think you showed me last night some TikTok by one of them on there.
Yes, actually.
I don't think that was very professional what she was doing, but, so, yeah.
Mind you, I think this is the same, if you're speaking about the same person I'm thinking of, it was the same individual who said that the council people didn't necessarily have time to go on social media.
You got to do
inform
TikTok. You got to have
constituents.
time.
Precisely. So that's unfortunate. But yeah, so I think we've touched on this a little bit actually about what irritates all of us about the way that city council meetings are carried out. I know there's a lot of concerns about transparency, for instance.
Yeah. Right.
Is there anything else?
Yeah, my biggest piece again is just the time that they try to take away the time from people being able to speak publicly.
That part, yeah.
To sign
Yeah.
in. Or if I'm a working man and I get off of work and I haven't had a break today, I didn't have an opportunity to sign up, but my voice still needs to be heard.
Sure.
I'm actually a tax-paying citizen. And I'm busy paying taxes by working. So again, for you to tell me that I have to sign up by 12 o'clock the day of is madness, right?
Yeah.
Like, what if I didn't have time? So you mean when I still come to this meeting, my say doesn't matter? It's not important what I feel or how I feel what's going on. That was crazy to me. So a lot of times people try
that's a good
to
point.
control the narrative, right?
Yeah.
And that to me is crazy because that's not political. The political part is listening to the people, right? And a lot of times when you're trying to control the narrative, you can't listen to people. Yeah, so it takes away our power, which is our voice. And a lot of times that's an issue for me.
And I also, just to add on to that, at the last meeting, I actually heard the council president make the comment that after somebody chuckled at a comment that was made, he was just like, look, I don't mind giving you more time. So wait a minute. So sometimes we have a time limit, and whether or not you're okay with who's the person in charge up there, you get more time. I don't quite understand that. At least I do know when you go to the county meetings, it's 3 minutes, regardless. It's rather, well, it should be 3 minutes. I mean, but
I
You're
think
saying
that,
there might be some favoritism there?
I plead the fifth.
So I think I'd summarize your point along with transparency, consistency. The way that things are done should be in a consistent, predictable manner so that people can depend and gain trust in the government. But when you start changing things at last minute, making signups at noon, reducing the time. At one point, you could talk for 5 minutes. Now it's 3. They've reduced it for a couple meetings down to 2 minutes. Now it's back to 3. And it's like, well, when you start changing things like that superfluously, like needlessly, capriciously, people end up losing faith, losing trust, being discouraged because they came prepared for every other meeting you had, before that was maybe 3 minutes. So they prepared very thoughtfully their comments, their contribution, but it timed out at 2 minutes, 37 seconds. When they practiced it, now they can't say everything they came to say.
They called it audible. That's what they called it in football. That's good. Actually, I want to ask also this. I don't know if y'all have noticed on Facebook, there's a group out called Recall Randy, where they want to get rid of the mayor. How do y'all feel about that?
Well, we had this conversation the first time I was on Bridging the Gap when we came to the county executive, and they were trying to get rid of that position. But that's not the political process. The mayor has been voted in. He has a vision for the city. We have to allow his time period, which is 4 years, to go through. Then we have to evaluate and decide whether we want to vote him back in the process. It pisses me off, to be honest, when you start talking about things that have been in place for so long, and now you want to change that because it doesn't sit well with someone. Or the person in that position, right, isn't doing what you want them to do, so now we no longer need that position. It's diabolical to me, right? Like, there's a checks and balances in place for a purpose. So now you're talking about removing a part of the checks and balances, which is crazy because that's always been a democratic process. There's always been the checks and balances. So when you talk about removing the mayor or you talk about recanting his votes or all of these things, all of a sudden now because he decides to go have a drink or he decides to go to a public place and be a human. He's human. Yeah, he can do these things, right? So now you're talking about, because he's here and he's doing this, he no longer needs to be the mayor. Well, that's crazy. Isn't he a human being? He's allowed to go do whatever he wants, how he chooses to relieve his stress It's his business. You shouldn't be chasing him around. You shouldn't be following him. Shouldn't be where's Randy pages or all these political schemes to remove someone or make someone look belittled, right? Sit down and have a professional conversation with the gentleman. Speak your piece. See what he thinks about that. And then get to know him for yourself instead of going by what other people are saying about him or what other
like
people
that.
portray
I
on
like
social
that idea.
media about him, right? Like, he was voted in the position. Let him do the work.
Anybody?
I completely agree. So, I think a lot of times, everybody has an idea in their head of what they want to see or how they think things should go. Whatever context we're talking about for that. When it comes to like the political, I think a lot of times we should be judging people the way that they themselves would be judged. So basically, we should be judging Mayor Taylor by his performance of what he said he would do, not what we as individuals believe that someone in that role should be doing. We're all going to have that opinion too, but in order to really get something done, to be able to sit down and have a conversation with the man, you have to be willing to, one, hear him out. I think that too, as
Very
far
important.
as like why he is, like, I found him willing to answer my questions. When I've reached out to Randy, why are you doing this? I may not like the response all the time. I may not always agree, but that's not actually an issue for me because I live in the real world where we can still work with people, collaborate, create together, despite differences. I mean, and it's wild work to me to see people who preach on like the gospel of diversity, for instance, or like inclusion, and then there's just no room at the table. There's no room in the inn for like certain people because they don't fit the narrative.
They don't fit the narrative. And I would also add, I can honestly say that Randy Taylor has not gone against anything that he said in his campaign compared to others who were on the council who have, again, not done the things that they campaigned on. So, again, we're mad at someone for doing exactly what he said he was going to do. Hasn't gone against the grain yet that I know of.
Right.
And then the people who have gone against the grain are the ones that people are still supporting and people are still cheering for and people are still 100% behind. That's an oxymoron to me. That man has done exactly what he campaigned on, and to me, I like it. He's up front. He's been up front this whole time, and he's been an honest person.
Yeah, and the people obviously voted for him. They voted for that. They voted for that agenda, for that platform.
Exactly.
I personally think the whole Recall Randy effort is childish. I think it's very, very obviously motivated by personal grievance with the man himself. I mean, if you have a problem, like everyone's been saying, if you have a problem with someone, it might be better to have a conversation, sit down, talk, hear him out, bring some other things to the table, as opposed to just starting some kind of it's an anonymous campaign to recall the mayor. I mean, at the very least, come out and say that you want to do it. Don't make it anonymous. I mean, I've heard rumors in the city area that the person leading this whole campaign is the leader of Shore Progress and his girlfriend.
But we're not
I'm not
sure
sure.
about it.
We're not sure about that. That's why it's rumors. It's unsubstantiated. But I mean, I just, I personally think, I've looked through the Facebook page, I've looked through the effort, I've seen all the things. It really just seems like they're trying to copy that No More
I want to say
Facebook
that.
page.
It
Actually,
looks just like
looks
it.
like they're just trying to copy it, and I don't think I have no confidence that it's going to succeed whatsoever. I mean, they'd have to get like 30% of the entire Salisbury city population to vote to recall him. I mean, he hasn't done anything terrible.
I
I
think-
think it was actually two-thirds.
Two-thirds.
Two-thirds of
They are-
registered voters, and so the registered, not who votes. That's a part. It's out of registered voters. So they're going
Interesting.
around being like only 3,000 people about voted, so they're thinking they need like two-thirds of that. No. You need like 12,000 signatures. These people don't even show up for the polls. You're going to get,
Interesting.
and they have
Wow.
90 days to do it.
Wow.
So there's a time limit on them getting 12,000 signatures. I would love to see them get that petition because they would have worked harder to get that petition than they did on these campaigns or how they do in the community. I would love to
like
see them
that.
actually work. It would impress me. I'd be like, so what else are you going to do with this energy and this effort and this ability?
But I would
They
like
can't do
to
it.
comment on what Colin said as well. Don't hide behind the smear campaign. Right? Be upfront about it.
Yeah.
If you feel a way, he's made you feel a way, and you feel like he needs to be recalled, that's understandable. But be men and women about how you feel and show face. Don't hide behind fake pages. Don't do these things. Show who you are so we know who you are, right? That's the biggest piece for me. Like, I hate people who hide behind things running my campaign, there was some things that Short Progressive did at the time that to me felt belittling, being left off of things and all of these other tactics that they use. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were behind it because these tactics have been used before in political gain or tried to have political gain in the process. But when you're running smear campaigns and things like that, to me it's cowardly, especially when you're hiding.
I was just about to say that.
You got to show your hand.
Definitely.
It's unique that I was just thinking when we were talking about this recall Randy. I also saw on some posts on Facebook that they were saying the reason why Mayor Taylor is the mayor is because there was 3 people in that race, which you think you were there from day one, right?
Yeah, man, I had to defend that a couple of times, and I don't say much. I try my best.
Maybe they want to call it blame Jermichael instead of.
Yeah, so and it kept being the stupid Democrats. The Democrats running 2 candidates. Well, I decided to run against Jack Heath. Mm-hmm. People always had to keep forgetting that. I was running against Jack Heath. Mm-hmm. Megan was pointed to, because she at the time was running for city council again. She was running for her seat again in city council. So again, I believe Megan was picked. She fit the bill. She comes from a political family. She has a political science degree. She fit the bill. And a lot of times people feel like you can plant someone somewhere and they can be more successful.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I'll say that I feel like they say that, oh, you split the vote between the Democrats. I'm pretty sure that there would be a lot of conservatives who would have voted for you, who did vote for you as well. Like, I wasn't a Salisbury City resident at the time. I was, only a couple months at Salisbury University. Mm-hmm. But after watching that mayoral forum, I wasn't necessarily sold on Megan. I also wasn't necessarily sold on Randy. I would have voted for you, but also there were other people in my college, like I had this editor-in-chief of our newspaper who was also liberal, who I think interviewed you. His name was Liam McGinnis, actually.
Yeah, that's my man.
and he wanted to vote for you. I think he may have actually. I think he did. So like, it's not like just a bunch of liberals would have voted. You would have you split the vote. I could have gone either ways, really. I mean, seriously.
It's funny you bring him up because he came to one of my town halls.
Oh yeah.
And that's where he interviewed me at, man. And we had such a great conversation. And he was able to see me interact with other people because that's actually the day we met with P-Flag. And he came to interview me right before that.
Wow, that's awesome.
For sure.
That's really cool.
So speaking of town halls, we were also talking before we went on the air that there's a lack of that happening.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I would say within local government or local politics, including the county, there's only maybe about 2 or 3 council people that are actually holding these town halls. I can say the executive has one, and actually tomorrow night we have Mayor Taylor at actually I guess he says, what do you call it, a State of the City address. But do y'all think that a lot of people ran on these town halls, but there's a lack of that happening?
Yes. Everyone ran on town halls and transparency because that was where the transparency was supposed to happen. And we talked about it. It was big. We brought it up in the campaigning because, again, we feel like if you sit in these seats politically, the people who vote you in, you have to listen to them.
Absolutely.
Well, the only time you're ever going to have opportunity to listen to them, of course, isn't at a city council meeting or a county council meeting. You have to have the town halls to truly hear people out. Because, again, I really may not be able to say what I need to say in 3 minutes. I may need more of your time than 3 minutes. And in these type of forums, these people get a longer time period. And you can come up with some solutions, right? I can tell you the truth, right? Because a lot of things go off votes. If I don't get other council people to sway my way, we'll never get things done in our district, right? So it's very vital that you understand that.
Sure.
Yeah, I can listen to your complaint all day long, but I also have to persuade my constituents to vote for something that you need in this county, in this district. Because if I don't do that, then hey, it gets put on the agenda, but it's just a talking topic. And now you think I'm not good at my job, and you vote against me next time because, again, you feel like you're not being heard, right? But a lot of times, man, they don't. I personally feel a lot of people have their own political agenda.
Yeah, integrity.
It's not about the people.
Integrity seems to be something that politicians lack. I'm not saying elected leaders. You can be an elected leader and not be a politician. A lot of people don't know that, though.
Yeah.